Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's Training Industry Learning Tech Showcase on reinforcement tools sponsored by HSI, NovoEd, and QStream. I'm Emma, Marketing Specialist here at Training Industry, and I'm so happy to have you with us here today. Before we get started, I'd like to quickly go over a few housekeeping items to help you interact with our speaker and get the most out of today's program. Throughout today's event, please feel free to use the chat for any comments and submit questions in the Q&A panel by clicking the button in your Zoom toolbar. All questions will be addressed during the event or at the end of the program during our Q&A section. At the end of your time with us, you'll notice a short survey will pop open in your browser. We'd appreciate your thoughts on today's event. And as always, all of our sessions are being recorded and will be archived on trainingindustry.com. And as an attendee, you will receive a follow-up email from us with a link to the on-demand sessions. If this is your first Training Industry event, a special welcome goes out to you. Training Industry exists to make connections among learning and development professionals. We offer tons of resources to support your role in L&D through live events like today's Learning Tech Showcase, as well as through articles on our website, our magazine, conferences, research reports, our podcast, and there's even more. We'd also like to hear about what you've learned from today's session on social media, so please follow us on your favorite platform so we can continue the conversation there. And now, without any further ado, it is my pleasure to introduce you to our speaker, Suzie Espling. She is a solutions engineer at HSI. Suzie, it's great to have you.
Thanks, Emma.
The floor is yours. Take it away.
Thank you so much. Let me share here. And good morning to all. Thanks for spending a little bit of time with me this morning. I'm excited to share how L&D and internal marketing can work hand in hand to drive engagement, strengthen brand presence, create lasting value for both your organization and your employees. So keep in mind today, we will be having a QA session at the very end. So save up those questions or go ahead and post them in the chat and we'll get to them as time provides. So the first part of the session topic, right, is continuous learning culture. And not having a continuous learning culture really the lack of a continuous learning culture really can shed some light on some negative effects that it might have. 48% failure of new hires in the first 18 months, or cyber attack and data breaches, right? It can reduce productivity and quality. So one of the things I want to talk about is looking at the employee life cycle, right? Onboarding, engagement, all the way through that cycle, and how we can create that continuous learning culture that includes internal marketing to help you get there. So let's take a look at a couple of the areas of a life cycle. So onboarding, right? It's the fundamental knowledge, the skills that new hires need to function productively, right? Think about how the military does this. They have a really strong recruitment process. They have a very structured onboarding process. They have tailored resources. They have guidance, coaching, mentorship, everything like that. What they want to do is give them the right tools right out of the gate without being lost in the shuffle. So a positive process, a solid ramp time, can really reduce that failure rate, right? 48% is pretty high. So from day one, you want to establish your learning culture, starting with your onboarding program. What's the purpose of the company? What do we do, right? What's the investment or buy-in from the employee as well as the employer? We want to make sure we're a good fit. How do we increase that positive contribution from that new employee, right? And reduce our risk, reducing that 48% for leaving. So it aligns new employees to understand the mission, the goals, the department goals, whether it's a product level, and how those goals will begin will be achieved. The approach really fosters the buy-in and drives better results from training initiatives. So internal marketing ensures that employees know why it's important, what do we do, why does it exist, right? So it's kind of the first phase of that that path, right? That employment path that you have. So let's talk about engagement, belonging, right? Everybody needs to belong. Everybody needs to contribute. That's what we're being paid to do. We're contributing, but we want a chance to belong. And how do we belong? We want to provide a venue that contributes not only for those employees to learn, but gain knowledge, share, in a community of practice, or encourage, different ideas to the organization. So internal marketing, right, from an engagement standpoint, can spark the curiosity and the excitement for employees to get engaged. Coaching and mentoring, kind of the buddy system effect, right? They can ask questions, tap into knowledge, see what those existing employees are doing. A lot of social learning can happen, observational learning, modeling, collaboration, even book clubs are a great, part of that learning culture. But what we need to do is change that ad hoc. Yeah, we have a coaching and mentoring program, but what is it? Who does it? How does it work? Right? We need to create that buzz that is the benefit to the organization. We want to ensure the access, the knowledge is parallel, right? And making it a part of that everyday life of that employee in a more formal way. We want to provide the value to the employees, they increase their knowledge. Targeted development, same kind of thing. We look at the gaps. Maybe we have a training matrix or skills competency or verifications. So learning paths, curriculums, apprenticeship program, all of those are, can be part of a targeted development. Any type of a step-by-step process. How do you get from point A to point B? My marketing spin, sometimes I call it path to performance, right? We want to be able to show the clear guidance of the next step, whether it's a competency skill or whether it's going from like a customer success manager level 1 to a level 2, or, hey, I think I want to get involved in the technical support side of the organization, and what kind of skills do I need to get there? Integrating those internal marketing into your career development plans and your performance evaluations, right? Are there any financial bonuses that we can talk about as well? This allows the employee to build the skills needed for advancement, role transitions, or even leadership opportunities, right? We want to kind of look at that from a succession planning standpoint as well. Retention and promotion, marketing your programs from your L&D program, celebrating 10 years, celebrating achievements for those L&Ds, right? Promote e-learning or training as a perk or a benefit, not a requirement. We say it every day. Oh yeah, e-learning is a perk, but is it really? Is L&D a part of it, or is marketing a part of your L&D strategy? We want to emphasize the professional development as part of that employee value proposition, that EVP. We want to include L&D aspects into the performance review, again, or that performance development plan. We also want recognition, visibility, making the e-learning aspirational, encouraging. We see other people moving up in the organization, and maybe it's people that we worked with, and that we get the engagement and we get more interest. So again, marketing those parts of the organization can be very, very beneficial. Another stat I ran across says of the 3 to 4.5 million employees who quit their job, according to JOLTS, which is the Job Opening and Labor Turnover Survey, 94% would stay at their employer if they invested in long-term training. Well, you may invest in it, but you're not marketing it to those employees, so they're leaving. So we see some of the negative, right, things that a lack of continuous learning culture provides, but what about the positive? Let's look at some of the studies by Burson. Organizations with robust learning cultures have 92% more likely to be first to market, 37% increase in employee productivity, 26% have greater ability to deliver quality products, including these internal marketing in all phases of your employee experience, right? That life cycle will enforce the value of continuous learning and training. If they can't see the future within the organization, they're going to look elsewhere. Show it to them, market to them. So let's go on to another topic, which is support behavior change. Think about how often organizations put out a training program. Yep, we did it. Yep, we checked that box. The slides were shown, we provided the training, and everyone just kind of moves on. But the real problem is that it rarely makes a difference, because we need to really break that cycle of training just to train. Instead, we need to focus on those learning experiences that change the behaviors that deliver those positive outcomes and results. So what are we expecting to change? How do we move that needle? What are the outcomes? How is this all going to work? So what we want to do is we want to focus on the outcomes. Did we market this? Instead of measuring how many hours we've trained, how many courses we've completed, we really want to align the learning to the business outcomes, right? Improve customer service, fewer compliance breaches, sales increase, right? What behaviors do we want to change, and what results do we want to achieve? And how are we going to measure those results, right? An example could be reduced behavioral complaints, and we want to leverage the e-learning and marketing to reinforce the ethics, as well as the value and positive learning culture. So another part of that support behavior change, I'm just going to go over a couple of use cases that I've been fortunate to be involved with that were very, very successful, kind of collecting these outcomes together. So many years ago, I worked with a very large hair salon, right? And one of their internal goals was to increase sales by 3%, but they couldn't really, extend their hours. They can't provide more services because they're in a, amount of time of an individual doing a service. So they turned to all of their resale products. They got with sales, got with L&D. L&D looked at, kind of the outcomes that they were looking for, and they developed a program to educate the stylist on how to sell the products, right? Well, stylists, they're very creative. They don't have a lot of sales skills per se, like a salesperson would. So what they did is they put together training for conversational selling. They put in education about the product so they could educate the customer, right? They focused on this for 4 months. They focused on the knowledge. They gave them competence. They were making recommendation to their customers and the why that this product would be good. And they increased their sales over 6% in the first 6 months. So again, that's something to be very, very proud of. And it's something to market internally. How is L&D making that difference? Another program that we did was called 3 Minutes at 3. It was a very large banking and investment firm. And the people leaders they felt like they were all out of sync, right? And so they got together with the CEO, the senior leadership, marketing. They got together with L&D. They talked about the different divisions, the geography span that they had. And what they did is they came up with this concept of learning 3 minutes at 3, and it was based on a specific set of targeted topics. So, the first week, people took some training and did their learning, did their 3 minutes at 3. They had videos from the CEO and just little messages and things like that. Well, soon they began to expect it. They looked for it. They connected to the topic. And then those people it connected to their direct reports, provided a really solid base of consistency, and it moved that needle, right? 86% engagement from the e-learning alone. But we know that also filtered down into the rest of the organization. I worked another organization for onboarding, another banking customer, not the same, but they had a 3-month-long onboarding program for their tellers. And the goal was to decrease onboarding over time and increase productivity, faster, right? Making them, a positive contribution quicker. So they quickly engaged the L&D department. They determined that a mix of e-learning, mentorship, coaching, observation, and what they did is they were able to reduce this to 6 weeks. So therefore, those new employees became more productive faster, and that was the goal. They wanted to get them in there and get them going faster than what the 3-month timeline was before. So internal marketing made the difference because it showed the why, right? Employees need to hear about all the successes with the e-learning programs. So educating executives, management, employees on benefits, and L&D tied to those outcomes are extremely important, right? We do it every day for our products and services that our marketing departments are selling, right, to those potential customers. Why not do it to our internal customers? So another area is reduced downtime or operational risk. Training is one of the most powerful tools to reduce that risk. We have human error, lack of knowledge, inconsistent practices, right? All those failures and disruptions happen. And training mitigates those operational risks, giving them the knowledge, the skill, and awareness in L&D programs. Now, I may not be too popular with this statement, but I really believe that there needs to be a partnership with L&D as well as safety working together to mitigate those operational risks. Collaboration, get on the same page. We want to, not only do we want a safe, but we want a safe and continuous learning culture to improve all facets of the business. Right? We want to have alignment. We want overarching focus. We want individual focus. We want to be on the same page. We want that common message, right? A lot of times they're out of sync. So even having ongoing campaigns, again, we do it externally in marketing. Let's do it internally. We have reminders, we have nudges, we have manager shout outs, how long has it been since we've, had anyone click on a bad link for a cybersecurity incident, right? A well-marketed program helps the employer clearly see not only what's in it for me, but they are being recognized for their new skills, gives them confidence, recognition, looking at them from a career development standpoint, the whole works. Again, Burson already established that L&D increases innovation, productivity, customer service. So let's connect the dots, right? And bring that operational piece together and work together for the same concepts. I know there's a lot on this page. Understanding the why behind the training. And I'll let you go through those, but one of the ones that I really want to talk about is kind of turning your L&D department from not a cost center, but a profit center. And that's under this one here, return on investment. For every $1 invested in training, companies receive $4.53 in return. That is a phenomenal ROI, but it's not ROI unless you can connect those dots with the outcomes, right? So L&D can transform specific parts of your organizations. You can even do an internal little webinar or white paper. Again, use some of those marketing ideas and items within your organization to really present what the L&D department do and how we're going to get there, right? So onboarding to help employees feel confident and connected and a positive contribution faster. Why do we have compliance, right? Meet legal requirements or reduce risks, right? Skills development, we want to grow our employees. So there's so many ways that we can connect those whys. But successful internal marketing campaigns can really reinforce that ROI behind the why, and making sure that those, those items are being advertised and looked at, for the employees to see the value. So how do we improve the knowledge retention? Our life is filled with Insta and Facebook and TikTok, right? And that attention span of all of us, right, is being reduced. It used to be 12 seconds. Now it's 8 seconds. So I don't know about you, but I am a definite goldfish, right? So from a knowledge retention, we really need to think about the best way to learn. What is the audience? How does it fit into the organization? Do we need short, focused learning bursts? Do we need kind of that knowledge drip, right? That 3 minutes at 3 o'clock, maybe one key item a day or one key item a week. We want to reduce that cognitive load, right? If I'm watching a 30-minute e-learning, I kind of check out because my attention span really isn't there. So what are the different ways, what are the behavior reinforcement that we can remember and apply? I even think about a little bit of a marketing, right? With mnemonic tricks, right? I don't know about you, but years ago, I took a proper fire extinguisher course. Now, it could be an active listening course or anything like that. But what it focused on was PASS, P-A-S-S, pull, aim, squeeze, and sweep. That method is forever grained in my mind. So we can grain other things in our minds that have effective, operations or effective processes. Putting marketing concepts into your learning grabs the intention and the engagement for recall. We really want to capture that behavior reinforcement. It's about strengthening the desired actions, right? Both from a habit, and e-learning, it is really powerful to do that. It allows that structured repetition, feedback, motivation mechanism, even that some traditional classroom trainings don't involve. So again, think about your audience. We're all goldfish in this world right now. I don't know, maybe your attention span is a little bit longer than mine, but certainly it's not what it used to be, right? So improved knowledge retention can also come from, again, different marketing. Rather than having your traditional dump, here's your e-learning, and we're not going to talk about it for a year. We want to make it very intentional, very active, very spaced out. Applying marketing concepts to your e-learning, right, or your training programs in a drip concept or short videos or quick interactive games. We can market those concepts really, really easy, right? The technology with e-learning systems and course authoring tools really allow for us to be able to include those items into our learning. Mobile devices, that's huge, right? How many of us pick up our mobile device in between meetings? We've got, 8 minutes before our next meeting, I'm going to pick up my phone and I'm going to do a little something. Why not make it learning? Why not increase that engagement? So not that all companies have, a mobile strategy involved in their learning, but have the conversation. How is L&D a part of that conversation? How can that be marketed as a benefit to that individual? A couple other notes about improved knowledge retention. Again, really focus on that audience, right? You want to engage. You want to have chunks of information. I always call it, learning snacks, right? I don't want to eat a whole lunch, but I want to snack all day long. We want that reinforcement, that application for improvement. The process ensures employees learn, but we really want them to remember, and they want to use that knowledge in a real world operation, which directly reduces the errors and the risks. So let's kind of talk about our shared support resources. And this is different ways in which e-learning can also be included, but let's reverse that question. Does your e-learning support your internal marketing efforts? So do you provide summaries like the stress management takeaway, how to do it, how to do some reflection, right? When we need to ensure that it translates and people are looking about it, we really want to provide a sustainable learning resource that really focuses back in. Checklists, they may be super, super simple, but they are one of the most powerful tools for retention as well as application, right? It bridges that gap from what we learned and what we remember to do. Retention isn't just all about memory, but it's about behavior consistency. So writing a short checklist, right? The do's and don'ts card of a customer service call, or a troubleshooting flowchart after technical training, or a sales process like MEDDIC that reinforces the behaviors that we're looking for. Discussion questions also can be very valuable. How does the team, when we talk about training, how can we bring that in at the department level or at our team level? How can those managers start bringing up questions or discussion within that learning? How can we include it in our weekly one-on-ones or, group chats, things like that? So I invite you to reverse that question and ask, does your e-learning support your internal marketing efforts as well? So that's all I have for you today. I think we're going to open it up for Q&A.
Great timing. All right, Suzie, I have a couple questions from you from the audience. Let's take a look. Lai asks, Suzie, these examples are very helpful. How was the engagement score measured? Attendance, completion? Question mark.
Really, there's a variety of way, right? 86% engagement. Yes, they connected to that learning and they were viewing it. And as you know, e-learning sometimes can have some, very lower numbers typically. And so looking at who connected with it, it's 3 minutes. So if you're going to connect with it, you're probably going to finish it. I mean, at least me as a goldfish, I'm going to finish it in 3 minutes, right? So you can do different things. Again, assessment through, measurement through assessment. 6 months later, are they doing the things that you talked about 2-3 months ago? Continually assessing that audience to see where they're at, what they remember, and how those are being fulfilled.
Awesome. Thank you, Suzie. Here's another one from Thomas. How can organizations elevate learning and development to a strategic level, ensuring it is valued by management and leadership and on par with executive and director roles?
Yeah, it's all about having those conversations, constantly having those conversations, making sure that L&D is involved at every step of the way. It's just not about compliance. It's not about harassment prevention. It's not about, the hard things that we need to do from a regulatory standpoint. It's about how do we change the organization? What are those executives looking for? We're looking for everybody's always looking for increased sales, right? So how do we get there? Do we implement training for the sales team? Do we implement, is it because we're not having deep enough conversations? Do we need to give them more communication skills to be able to have those deeper conversations? So get involved, find out what the goals of that organization are and get involved. Have those conversations.
Great. I think we have time for one or two more. Is there anything we need to think about related to mobile e-learning?
Yeah, lots of things, right? A lot of people associate risk with mobile. Some organizations don't allow mobile. I know a lot of hospitals, they don't want you on your mobile devices, yet those managers are given mobile devices to do their jobs and things like that. So really it's about strategy, talking it out, not only from an IT perspective, right? How are you going to support this? Can they use their own mobile devices? Do you need to provide them mobile devices or, iPads or things like that? Do you need to give them the time to do this? So really, I do have a really good article about improving outcomes using mobile devices. Happy to share that with you. If you want to text or email me, excuse me, if you want to email me, feel free, and I can give you some resources about those and maybe some tips to improve that mobile conversation.
That sounds great. And here's one more. We're going to squeeze this one in.
Okay.
Do you have an example of a success story on Learning Bites by utilizing internal social channels?
Internal social channels. Not off the top of my head. However, let me look through some of my resources. Social communities are really good, especially when it deals on a particular topic, whether it's an IT support topic or a sales topic or a customer service topic. We want to learn from each other. Hey, I just had this person on the phone and this is what they were looking for, and I didn't quite understand it. Can anyone give me some help? And even getting some responses on the fly can help, right? Using that social intervention as a part of the learning, having those managers, right, monitoring them and helping their employees. But let me look for some stats on that and see if I can find some good stats for you for social learning.
Fabulous. Well, thank you so much, Suzie. This is all the time we have today. Looks like we've got through most of the questions, but if you have outstanding questions for Suzie, I'm sure she'd love to hear from you via email. And you'll get this recording sent to you later today. So thank you so much, Suzie. Thanks for your time.
You bet. Thanks, Emma. Nice to be here today.
Awesome. All right, everyone. Well, up next, we have a 15-minute break. And then our next session is with Juan from NovoEd for their session, Building a Comprehensive Talent Development Approach with Learning, Mentoring, and Practice. In just a moment, I am going to close this session, but you can join the next one by going to the event lobby and clicking on the Sessions tab. Thanks, everybody. I'll see you later.